Porpoising is still a hot topic after 11 rounds in the 2022 season, and it started to gain huge traction after the Baku GP in Azerbaijan, where a couple of drivers like Hamilton, Ricciardo, and Gasly complained about the porpoising issues and the pain that they had to endure during the race. This is when the FIA started to understand things more seriously, as it implemented two new rules that are yet to take place. The first one will be about the flexi floors, as some teams have apparently found a way to go around the rules and make their floors flex more. And the second one will be about the metrics regarding the vertical oscillations, which are set to take place in Spa. However, drivers and teams aren't really positive about these rules, so they have resisted it a lot and have protested it too, specifically for the measurements of the oscillations. But the FIA doesn't have a plan to back down. And if you want to find out more about these rules, stick around till the end of this video to find out more. Let's start with the flexi floors and how this will change the performance of the cars if they're found to be flirting with the rules. As of the beginning of the season, the allowed flexibility of the underfloor, specifically at the plank wear, was 2 mm. But this was measured only at the front end of the plank wear, and Mercedes boss Toto Wolff suspects that teams like Ferrari and Red Bull managed to go over the rules to flex the underfloor more than it's allowed. With this, they allow the car to gain more downforce and inhibit the air stalling beneath the floor, therefore inhibiting the porpoising phenomenon. This is one of the reasons why Mercedes thinks that the rivals have managed to beat the porpoising problem or to perform well while it's still present, as is the case with Ferrari. As per Wolff, he was surprised that this problem wasn't brought to discussion previously. Nobody had an idea until the FIA brought it up in the last Technical Advisory Committee, which was to a great surprise of all the teams because what's in the regulations and what was the intent of the regulations, it's pretty clear. There's no argument why that could deflect more than what it's in the regs, said Wolff after Saturday's qualifying session in Montreal, adding that this was more of a shocker to him. Therefore, for the next GP that is supposed to take place from the 22nd to the 24th of July, the teams won't be allowed to flex their floors more than 2 mm, as it's in the regulations. According to Red Bull's principal, Christian Horner, tracks like these are always going to go in favor of Mercedes, as they're the main team that has dominated this track in the past, not including Red Bull's win last year. I think when we go to this type of track, it's always going to play to their strengths. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few races. I would think that France in particular would be good for them. They're probably pleased we're not in Singapore next week. It's going to be a case of swings and roundabouts, added Horner, who expects Mercedes to be back in the fight with them and Ferrari soon rather than later. However, according to the reigning champion Verstappen, he has no idea why Mercedes is pushing for these rules to be implemented and why are they calling out other teams because it seems like they have the most flexible floor out of all teams. As for the Belgian GP, the AOM or aerodynamic oscillation metric will be implemented and drivers won't be able to exceed it. If they do, they'll face repercussions like retiring early or forcing to race the right height. Furthermore, the measures regarding plank wear will also help the FIA to understand better if there are more teams that are trying to go over the rules. Some of the teams, however, were keen on the regulations brought by the FIA as they claimed them as more than necessary for the safety of their drivers. Others, however, have been annoyed at the FIA's actions and believe that the governing body has no jurisdiction over how the teams are supposed to set up their cars. Questions have been asked about FIA needing to take any action on porpoising now that the phenomenon hasn't been a factor in recent races. This was discussed at a meeting of F1's TAC or Technical Advisory Committee on Thursday, where the FIA stayed clear in its financial statement that the matter is going to remain unchanged despite the criticism of the teams. In a statement, FIA said that it was absolutely resolute that the porpoising was a significant safety matter, so there could be no change of direction with its plans. It is the responsibility and the prerogative of the FIA to intervene in safety matters, and the reason the regulations allow such measures to be taken is precisely to allow decisions to be taken without being influenced by the competitive position each team may find themselves in, states in the official statement by the FIA. Although cars haven't been bouncing as wildly as they did in pre-testing and in the first couple of races, the FIA believes that the phenomenon isn't completely gone and it has disappeared just because of the nature of the tracks that are as of now in the calendar. Such is the case with the French GP, but races like Budapest, Spa, and Singapore could be the tracks where the porpoising phenomenon will come back, and the metrics will be more than applicable here. The FIA also has to worry about 2023 as the improvements in the cars are mostly focused on the increased downforce. So, with increasing the downforce, the 2023 cars could face greater problems. That's why the FIA is sticking to a two-point plan in a bid to try to rid the sport of the problem. Although the implementation of the AOM will become mandatory from the Spa weekend, teams will also be able to use the metric from next weekend's French GP to understand it better. The FIA will mandate a stiffening of the skid blocks in the plank of cars too, just like we talked about before, as there will be changes to how the planks are measured too. Therefore, teams won't use the disappearing skid blocks to pass post-race checks, having worn down other areas of the floor. As for 2023, the FIA has also outlined changes to the technical regulations, as there are 25mm racing to the floor edges, a raising of the underfloor diffuser throat, the introduction of more stringent lateral floor deflection tests, and the use of a more accurate sensor to quantify aerodynamic oscillation. These measurements will be submitted urgently to the FIA's World Motorsport Council for ratification, so the teams can get to work on revised 2023 designs. So it's up to us to wait and see what Paul Ricard and Spa have in store for us. So far, it seems like the FIA has become really angry about constantly being called out about the porpoising issue, mostly from Mercedes. So with the new implementation of these rules, teams are going to have a hard time finding the right groove. If the allegations are true from Mercedes that Ferrari and Red Bull are flexing their floors too much, then we shall see a sudden drop in performance in the Paul Ricard GP, a track that requires a lot of downforce due to the smooth surface and the flat parts. We hope that you enjoyed our video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd like to ask for your feedback, as it's very important to us to know how we satisfied your interest with our F1 related content.